Someone made you feel small once. And the scariest part, you let them. It wasn't just once, it happened over and over again. It was the person at work who threw your idea out like it was nothing. It was the family member who always has something to say. It was the friend who laughed when you told them about your dream. And the worst part isn't what they said. The worst part is that you walked away actually believing them. That ends today, because there is a way to never let anyone make you feel small again. And it doesn't come from fighting back. It doesn't come from defending yourself. It doesn't come from proving anything to anyone. It comes from inside. The Stoics figured this out over 2,000 years ago. And in the next 25 minutes, you're going to understand exactly how it works. And more importantly, how to use it starting today. Let me ask you something honest. How many times have you changed what you thought about yourself because of what someone else said? How many times were you excited about something? A project, an idea, a life change, a dream. And one person, with one sentence, completely took the wind out of you. That has a name. The Stoics called it depending on external judgment. And it is one of the most silent forms of slavery that exists. Think about it. If what you think about yourself changes depending on what other people say, then you don't belong to yourself. You belong to them. You wake up every morning, and without even realizing it, you're waiting for the world to approve of you before you feel okay. And the world, most of the time, is not going to give you that. Because the world is too busy dealing with its own problems to worry about making you feel good. Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome, and one of the greatest Stoics who ever lived, wrote something in his personal journal. And this is important. It was a journal he never intended to publish. He wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing for himself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But most people do the exact opposite. They give the power of their mind to outside events. They give the power of their mind to other people's opinions. And then they spend years wondering why they feel so weak, so lost, so dependent. You are not weak. You just were never taught how to protect your own mind. And that is what this video is about. Not motivation that fades in a few hours. Not a list of affirmations you repeat in the mirror. Real, practical mental armor. The kind that stays with you. The kind the Stoics built their entire lives around. Let's get into it. What actually happens when someone puts you down? When someone says something that hurts you, what are they actually doing? They're sending you a signal. Think of it like a text message. Someone sends you a message. It says, "You're not good enough." And without thinking, you open it, you read it, you believe every word, and you save it right at the top of your mental inbox. You read it again and again. You let it define how you feel about yourself for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years. But here's the thing. You chose to open it. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, who was born a slave and became one of the most respected thinkers in all of history, said something that sounds almost too simple, but changes everything once you really understand it. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things. Read that again slowly. It is not things that disturb us. It is our opinions about things. The comment someone made about you had zero power on its own. By itself, it's just air vibrating. It's just pixels on a screen. The only power it has over you comes from the meaning you decide to give it. It comes from how seriously you choose to take it. It comes from the weight you decide to place on it. And here is the shift. You can decide to give it less weight. You can decide to take it less seriously. You can decide to not let it mean what they wanted it to mean. But wait, I need to be clear about something here, because this is where people misunderstand Stoicism completely. This is not about pretending it didn't hurt. This is not about being emotionally numb. This is not about putting on a mask and acting like nothing gets to you. The Stoics were not robots. Marcus Aurelius cried when his children died. Epictetus felt every single day of being enslaved. Seneca lost his closest friends, his wealth, his freedom. And he felt all of it. They were human. They experienced pain just like you do. The difference is that they didn't let the feeling become their identity. There is a massive difference between feeling pain and becoming that pain. You can feel that a comment was unfair. You can feel hurt by it. You can acknowledge that it stung. And at the same time, you can refuse to let it rewrite who you are. Those two things can exist at the same time. Now let me show you how this actually works in real life. The first thing the Stoics practiced when something external tried to disturb their internal state was a pause. They didn't react immediately. They created a gap, a space between the stimulus and the response. Think about the last time someone said something that hit you hard. What did you do? Most people either explode immediately or collapse immediately. They react from the raw, unfiltered emotion. And when you react from that place, you almost always regret it later. You say something you didn't mean. You shrink in a way you didn't want to. You give that person exactly the reaction they were looking for. The Stoics trained themselves to pause first, to breathe, to let the initial wave of emotion pass before choosing how to respond. Because in that space, in that tiny moment between what happened and what you do next, that is where your real power lives. Marcus Aurelius had an exercise he called the view from above. When something was disturbing his peace of mind, he would mentally zoom out. He would picture himself pulling back, higher and higher, until the situation looked small, like seeing your city from an airplane. Everything that felt enormous on the ground looks completely different from up there. Try this the next time someone's words hit you hard. Zoom out. Picture the whole situation from above. That person who made that comment, they are one human being, living one complicated life, dealing with their own stuff, saying something in one specific moment. In the grand scale of your entire life, how much space does this actually deserve? The person who criticized you is going to die someday. You are going to die someday. 100 years from now, nobody is going to remember that comment. Nobody is going to know that conversation happened. This is not pessimism. This is not dark thinking. This is freedom. Because when you put things at their actual size, they stop taking up an enormous amount of space inside you. The most powerful idea in Stoic philosophy. The second principle the Stoics used is called the Dichotomy of Control. And this might be the single most powerful idea in all of Stoic philosophy. Everything in life falls into one of two categories: things that are within your control and things that are not. What is within your control? Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your values, your effort, your response to what happens to you. What is not within your control? What people think about you, what they say about you, how they treat you, the opinions they have formed, the judgments they make. Here is the problem. Most people spend the majority of their mental energy trying to control things that are completely outside their control. They obsess over what someone thinks of them. They replay conversations, trying to figure out why someone didn't like them. They shape their entire behavior around trying to get approval from people who were never going to give it to them anyway. And it destroys them. Not because the world is cruel, but because they are putting all their energy into a place where it literally cannot change anything. It is like trying to stop rain with your bare hands. The rain doesn't know you exist. It doesn't care about your feelings. It is going to keep falling no matter how hard you push against it. But when you redirect that energy, all of it, back to what is actually within your control, everything shifts. Because now you have real power. Now you are working with something that can actually respond to your effort. Your response is yours. Your mindset is yours. Your values are yours. Nobody can take those. Nobody can touch those without your permission. The uncomfortable truth. Now here is the part most people don't want to hear. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's important. The reason other people's words hit you as hard as they do has a lot to do with what you already believe about yourself. When someone says you're not going to make it, and that comment destroys you for a week, it destroys you because a part of you is afraid they might be right. If you had complete certainty about where you were going and who you were, that comment would pass right through you like wind through an open window. It would land and leave without sticking. This is not your fault. We grew up in a world that trained us to depend on external validation. School gave you grades that told you if you were good enough. Family gave you approval or disapproval. Social media gives you likes and comments that tell you whether what you're doing matters. From the time you were a child, you were taught to look outside yourself to find out how much you're worth. So, of course you do it now. Of course you feel shaken when someone takes that validation away, or replaces it with criticism. You are literally conditioned to need it. But the mental shield, the real kind, the kind that lasts, starts when you reverse that process. When you stop asking the world if you are enough and start knowing it from inside. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every single morning, not to share with anyone, not for approval, just for himself. He would reinforce what he believed in, what he stood for, what kind of man he was trying to be, because he understood something most people never do. If you don't build your own internal foundation, the external world will build one for you, and that foundation will be made of sand. You need to build yours. That means knowing what you actually value, not what you think you should value, not what your family told you to value, what you genuinely, deeply care about. It means knowing what you're actually trying to do with your time on this earth. It means having a clear picture of who you are when nobody is watching, when there's no audience, no performance, just you. Because when you have that, when you have a real self-built identity, the words of others start to lose their grip. They still come. People still talk. The criticism doesn't stop, but now you have a foundation. And a house with a real foundation doesn't fall in the first storm. Why you keep absorbing other people's negativity? Let me take this deeper, because I think this is something most videos never talk about. There's a specific reason why some people's words get under your skin and others don't. It's not random. It's not about how loud they said it or how many people heard it. It's about how close the comment is to your own existing fear. If someone tells you that you're bad at something you genuinely don't care about, it rolls right off. If someone tells you that you're bad at something you secretly worry about, it sticks. It goes deep. It keeps you up at night. So the real work isn't just learning to deflect what people say. The real work is finding those fears and dealing with them directly, because a fear that lives in the dark gets bigger. A fear that you bring into the light and examine, where did this come from? Is this actually true? What would happen if it were true? That fear loses its power. The Stoics called this negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, the practice of deliberately imagining the worst-case scenario, not to scare yourself, but to realize that you could survive it. And once you know you can survive the worst version of something, the fear of it stops controlling you. What is the worst thing someone could actually say about you? Think about it. What is the most brutal, honest criticism? Could you survive it? Could you sit with it, examine it, take what's useful and discard the rest? Of course you could. You've already survived harder things than words. Now, I need to tell you something that is going to completely change how you see this. The people who try hardest to make you feel small are exactly the people who feel the smallest themselves. Think about that for a moment. A person who is genuinely doing well, who is growing, building, finding meaning, feeling good about where their life is going, that person has no interest in tearing you down. They don't have the time. They don't have the desire. When you're actually building something real in your own life, you become completely uninterested in destroying what someone else is building. The people who throw comments designed to hurt you, who laugh at your dreams, who tell you you're not going to make it, they are showing you the size of their own pain. It is a projection. It is a mirror. When someone tells you that you're not going to succeed, very often what they're really saying is that they've stopped believing they can succeed. When someone laughs at your dream, it's usually because their own dream died somewhere along the way, and they haven't processed that loss. This doesn't mean you let it go and act like it's fine. This doesn't mean you have no boundaries. Understanding the root of something doesn't mean you accept it. But it does mean the poison loses its power, because it was never really about you. Seneca believed that everything external is temporary. Status, reputation, what people think of you. But your character, the person you choose to be, that is the only thing that is truly yours. And no one can take it without your permission. Not fight harder, not prove them wrong. Keep being who you are. And here is the most important point in this entire video. The one I need you to really sit with. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. That sentence sounds simple, maybe even obvious. But the majority of people live their entire lives trying to prove, trying to show the person who doubted them that they were wrong, trying to get the approval of the parent who never gave it, trying to make the friend who laughed understand that the dream was real. And while all that energy goes into proving, it's not going into actually building anything. Here's what the Stoics understood about this. When you live to prove things to other people, you've given them control of your direction. You're not moving toward what you actually want. You're moving away from their opinion of you. And those are completely different destinations. The mental shield isn't aggressive. It's not arrogant. It doesn't announce itself. It is quiet. It is the calm of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need anyone to confirm it. It is the posture of someone who can hear criticism, look at it honestly, take whatever small piece might be useful, and let the rest go without drama. Because there is a difference between real feedback and an attempt to make you feel less. A real criticism comes from someone who wants to see you grow. It's specific. It's honest. It points at something real. An attempt to diminish you comes disguised as advice, but has one actual purpose: to make you feel smaller than you are. Learn to tell the difference. Take what actually helps you grow. Let go of everything else. Not angrily, just quietly. The way you put down something that was never yours to carry. So how do you actually build this? Because knowing it isn't the same as living it. The Stoics were not philosophers in the abstract sense. They were practitioners. Marcus Aurelius didn't just think about these ideas. He tested them every single day while running the most powerful empire in the world. Epictetus didn't just talk about freedom. He cultivated it while being physically enslaved. Seneca didn't just write about facing loss. He faced it directly, repeatedly. Here's the practice. Every morning, before the world gets to you, spend 5 minutes with yourself. Not on your phone, not checking messages, just with yourself. Ask 3 questions. Who am I today? What do I actually care about? What is within my control today? These 3 questions do something powerful. They remind you of your foundation before anyone else has a chance to shake it. They anchor you in your own values before the opinions of the day start coming in. They put you in the driver's seat before the world tries to take the wheel. Then, when something hits you, when a comment lands, when someone dismisses you, when you feel that old familiar shrinking, pause. 1 breath. Zoom out. Ask yourself, does this person's opinion of me change who I actually am? And the answer, every single time, is no. It changes nothing about who you are. It only changes how you feel in this moment. And feelings, as real as they are not facts. Let's bring everything together. First, the power that other people's words have over you comes entirely from the weight you decide to give them. You assigned that weight, which means you can reassign it. Less weight, less power. Second, there are things within your control and things that are not. Your thoughts, your values, your response, yours. What people think, what people say, how people judge you, not yours. Stop spending energy on what will never respond to it. Third, the people who try to make you feel small are showing you the size of their own pain. It was never really about you. Understanding this doesn't excuse it, but it does free you from it. Fourth, build an internal foundation. Know who you are when nobody is watching. Know what you value. Know what you're building. That foundation is the thing that no comment, no criticism, no rejection can knock down. Once it's built, you carry it everywhere. Fifth, stop trying to prove. Start building. In silence, with consistency. The result will say everything that needs to be said, louder and more clearly than any argument you could ever have with the person who doubted you. The Stoics were not perfect people. Marcus Aurelius made mistakes as emperor. Epictetus suffered enormously. Seneca had real contradictions in his life. But every single one of them shared one thing. They refused to let the external world decide their internal size. You can choose that too. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are better. Not when you feel ready. Right now. With whatever you have. With wherever you are. The next time someone tries to make you feel small, and they will try, because that's just how the world works, you'll remember this. You'll take one breath, you'll create that space, and you'll make a conscious choice not to accept it. Because you are not what they say you are. You are what you decide to be. And that decision belongs only to you.